On this episode, we chat with 4 different expat women about what it's like finding love and romance in Bangkok.
So if you want to learn more about an often overlooked side of the dating game, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, you be tuned to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who followed a friend to Thailand in 2001, and when he went back home, I stayed here in an effort to find the secret to life, the universe, and everything, and discovered that it is, in fact, Somtam.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I am Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a 1-year teaching contract 18 years ago. Fell in love with Thailand's lack of safety regulations, allowing me to take risks with my life that I could never take back home in the States.
It's like Mad Max out here.
That's right. Before we start, a huge thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. For more info on how you can become a patron, just head to the support page on BangkokPodcast.com. You can learn more about becoming a patron on our website. And of course, one of the cool things our patrons get is an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we talk about current events in Thailand and basically whatever else comes into our minds. We just finished recording this week's bonus show, and we chatted about how a trip to a beautiful but potentially dangerous swimming pool at a friend's house got Greg thinking about Thailand's lack of safety regulations and whether or not that means that the government doesn't care enough to do anything preventative, or maybe just the Thais are expected to play a greater part in their own safety.
Yeah, and for anyone who saw that photo on Facebook, on our Facebook page that I posted of my son looking over the edge of the swimming pool to the city below, I was actually holding his ankle. So it's not like I just let him sort of slide out over the edge of the swimming pool.
Well, come on. I assumed you just took risks for the podcast just so you could have a cool photo for the podcast. Come on.
Well, that's part of it. But also, how else is he going to learn? Like, well... Next time he won't fall 35 stories.
That's right. You got to learn somehow.
This is some dark humor. All right. Well, this episode is part 2 of a 2-part roundtable discussion with 4 great expat women about what it's like dating in Bangkok. Now, part 1 of the show, which aired last week, got a lot of attention, and we got a lot of great comments on Facebook, Twitter, and our Patreon page. So we're glad it seemed to have resonated with so many people. So on this episode, we continue our discussion, which includes Tinder horror stories, women-only Facebook groups where potential dates are discussed and vetted, and some advice for those who will be coming to Bangkok and may or may not want to find love while they're here. So here is part 2 of our discussion with Maggie, Carrie, Laura, and Kat.
Okay, it's Laura. What about the I don't want to say it's a culture, but it is almost the culture of cheating. Having a gick, having a mia noi, and actually nobody really thinking that's that big of a deal, and they will bring that to their family. And it just shows up. And I don't know how to react when I do. I'm like, oh, I know that guy. That's not his wife.
For listeners who might not know, the word gig is a Thai word, which it depends who you ask. I think. Yeah. I mean, it can mean anything from like a friend of an opposite sex who I confide in to like someone I boink on the side. You know, it depends.
Oh, I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't do the friend who I confide with, because I swear I'd be kicked to too many people. I think it has a sexual or a dating connotation.
I think so too, but yeah. I've talked to several people who say no. It's just purely like an emotional support thing. Like
really?
Yeah, it really depends who you talk to.
Yeah, there's so many confused looks at you right now.
No, like I've come to think of it, they're all women, but they're like, no. A geek is like a guy friend who I hang out with, which sounds like my experience all through high school. Like, oh, he's such a nice guy. Why
you've
can't
been
I find a guy
friend-zoned.
like you? Yeah. But that's very common in Thai culture, like a side piece or a side woman or another girlfriend.
And
on
it's
the side.
completely accepted unless you bring them out into public, and then it's like, oh no. I find the family almost always knows.
I would say it's not completely accepted. If my wife ever found out I had a gig, it would be over.
Found out?
Whoa!
Edit that out.
Oh.
Kat, you never got to say what you do. Are you a lawyer? Because I think you just, no, for complete full disclosure, I don't, because I know that if I ever did and she found out, it would be immediate divorce. And I've got a kid, I've got a condo. There's way too much to lose in my particular situation.
But then I also find like Thai girlfriends, boyfriends seem to fully expect this to happen as well.
Some girls do, is my
They
experience
expect
has
it.
been.
Actually, I feel like now, like, you know, you see like internet culture from Western cultures, and like side chicks is such a thing now, and like you hear in songs and like in pop culture. So maybe it's something that's always been a thing in Western culture, but becoming more.
No, I think in Asian culture it's been
more
much more prevalent, and it's always been that way. It has in Japan anyway, for sure. And I would not, and I still find that there's a lot of, I would not break up my marriage over that. This is a marriage, this is a contract, and this is a family, and this is, you know, families are involved, therefore I'm not going to break it. But okay, whatever, as long as you keep it.
I think it's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, keep it away from the family and the kids. Yeah, you haven't embarrassed me, you haven't brought them out. But then I'm always like at funerals going, so who's that one then? But then again, I think that's probably another reason why for Thai men it's harder to date Western women, because we won't accept that. And maybe not harder, but more like, nah, I'm not going to put up with what you see as a normal cultural thing, and I'm not going to go along with it just to kind of go, well, you know, it's Thailand and it's Thais, so that this is what they do. No, sorry, it's not going to be.
So you think that, one of the potential turnoffs for Thai men is that, like, oh, she won't accept my cultural differences,
or they'll still do it, but if they find out, they'll cause a scene that will be uncomfortable,
right?
For
losing
people.
Face.
Exactly. They'll make it more of a scene than a Thai woman would, and they won't accept it, and they won't just keep quiet.
Does anyone have a particular horror story that jumps to mind of a dating nightmare?
I found porn in my ex-husband's car, and he tried to blame it on the driver.
Anyone else? Any crazy?
I fortunately haven't had to deal with any partners that I've had and finding out that they've cheated. Not that I know of, would say. So, I mean, it's a possibility.
But not specifically cheating, but just like, oh, I'll go on a date with this guy and he'll like pluck a hair out of your head and floss with it.
Oh my
something
God.
Like that.
Well, nothing to, I mean, one that jumps to mind is going on a date with a guy who was half Thai American, but like American for the most part. And then we go out to eat, and he doesn't even like, I'm fine paying for the date or going half. It's not a problem for me, but doesn't even attempt to like offer anything at all. It's like, okay, here's 1,500 baht bill that I will pay, no problem. And I had a contingency plan for the date in case it went horrible. So I was going out, or if it went well, I was going to invite him to go to the birthday bowling party. And I was like, nope, sorry, I got to run. I can't hang out longer. Maybe I'll see you later. And he was like, yeah, sure. Okay. It's like, yikes. Okay. Like, sorry. So, I mean, that's like one of the worst ones, I guess. There's more that come to mind, but maybe I just have blocked them. I'm like, not thinking about it.
This is Maggie. I've had situations where my coworkers' girlfriends messaged me and were like, get away from my boyfriend. I'm like, I sit next to him at work. Now, I physically cannot get away from him, number one.
They're Thai girlfriends.
Yeah. And number two, like, I work with them. Like, this is, like, I know them. I would never want to date them. Like, they're lovely guys. Like, but yeah, for you, like, they're like brothers. Like, me having 3 brothers, it's like, ooh, yeah, no, they fart in front of me and like when you do really inappropriate things. And I also see what they're searching on their computer. I don't want them. You have them. Like, it's fine. But yeah, one actually did threaten to throw acid in my face. And I've met her before. Oh, but then paying. I've had a situation. So it was 3 days before payday. And this guy insists going to the Octave bar.
No, so it's a Thai guy or Farang guy?
Farang guy. And I'm like, no, it's okay. We can go somewhere else, chilled for like a drink. And he's like, no, 8:00 dinner. And I'm like, oh, I don't have money for this. No, I'm like, oh, and he insists. And I'm like, okay, like I'd rather just go have a simple drink somewhere. But if you insist on going for dinner, and I'm like, okay, just keep it cheap, Maggie. Don't order anything. Just be a little cheap. And so first thing, we're walking in, and all of a sudden, like I say, can we sit outside? And the guy goes, why? And I'm like, because I smoke. Now, this is mentioned on my profile, like this was a Tinder guy. Tried to order a bottle of wine, red wine, and I'm like, oh, I don't drink red wine, I'll just have a glass of white wine. And he orders a bottle for me and a bottle for himself. And I'm like, hey.
Presumptive.
And so waiter comes around again, like chatting and everything's fine. He seems nice. And he orders lots of different things, like, and I don't pay attention really. And I'm like, I'll have some ribs. Portions aren't that big. And as I'm ordering, he goes, you eat meat? And I'm like, and I literally go, yeah. And he literally looked at me, stood up, and left. And I was like, no, he just went to the bathroom. He just went to the bathroom because I think I had like 1,000 baht with me. And I was like, this is not the kind of place I can wash dishes. Then all of this food appears. And I looked at the waitress and I was like, she just gave me this look of like, yeah, he's not coming back kind of thing. And I'm like, I phone my friend because I don't have the money. I'm like, hey, have you and your boyfriend had dinner yet? And like, they're vegetarian. So I'm like, this is a great deal. I'll take my ribs and my bottle of wine and go cry at home. And you can have this lovely romantic dinner at the Octave. And then in 3 days when we get paid, I'll pay for everything. So you don't even, just bring your credit card. And you just hear her boyfriend in the background going, oh, is it one of Maggie's Tinder disasters? Tell her to stay right there. We're coming and we want to hear everything. And I'm like, oh.
I'm sorry, Maggie. This is Kat. That has to be one of the worst Tinder dates I have heard.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
I mean, that was the worst. But I seriously do have a few that was memorable and spectacularly horrible.
So when I had one friend here, she was trying to come up with like a successful strategy, trying to make like a relationship work. She had a Thai boyfriend, and she decided she really wanted to make things work. And she'd already dated a lot, had these horrible experiences, but she just decided, I'm going to give him the green light. Like basically, I'm going to let him, if he wants to hook up with like massage girls or karaoke girls, I'm just going to straight up give him the green light as a strategy to make it work. So she's trying to be reasonable. Like, I remember talking to her about it. She was like, when in Rome, she's like, I'm trying to adjust. She thought the guy really loved her. She was really into him. And she figured he was screwing around. He was going out with his Thai friends. And basically the relationship failed anyway. But I mean, do you ever feel like, wow, I've just got to change. I've got to adjust. I got to be more flexible.
It's Maggie. I think here, like something that has come up with ladies' nights and stuff like that, where standards go way down.
But I'm curious if you ever feel like you're just intentionally changing your strategy. Like I feel like, at least my friend, I felt like I was kind of impressed by her because she was just kind of like trying to find something that would work. And she's just trying to accept the reality. Like, okay, this is just a different culture. But I just want to clarify, it's just among your friends. It's not like something you hear a lot. It's not, you don't hear your friends going, well, I just gave my boyfriend the green light just to make this work. That is not a common thing.
No. But I know a lot of Thai women with Western men who know
and tolerate
it, or know of the other, or even friends with the other girl. And like, well, that's what's going to happen. So
we've got a friend who says that he's a handsome dude, average guy, average height, but he said that when he came to Thailand, he was tall, dark, and handsome suddenly. And let's be honest here, I think I'm about a 6, maybe a 7, because I'm such a nice guy. Coming to Thailand, I might be able to bump that up by 1.5 or maybe even 2 points, depending on the person. But you said something interesting the other night when we were discussing this about how when expat women are here, you might have been a 7 or an 8 back home, but then you come over to Thailand and you're like, oh, wow, like I've just been bumped down a couple of notches. Is that Is that something that you've experienced or thought about? Or?
I mean, this gets back to this whole question of just getting less attention. But I'm friends with a woman who's, I think she's just beautiful. You know, in the States, she just constantly has attention, just constant. And then here, she just said it dropped off by like 90%. And she just said it's you know, it's funny because she adjusted over time. And I remember her telling me like, you know, in a way, I kind of like it now because, you know, it's kind of more peaceful. You know,
I think, like we said earlier, this is Maggie again, sorry. We touched on it earlier where you go home. So I went home twice in the beginning with the ex, and then I went home recently for the first time in 6 years. So my friends were like, oh my goodness, you're going to feel so hot when you go home. Like people are going to, like guys are actually going to look at you and talk to you. And yeah, sure enough, when I did before I got to South Africa, like I was on the plane and people would like talk to me and I would be like, well, what's wrong? Do you have something? Do I smell? Like, what is going on?
This is Kat. I think for me, I've experienced a mix of things being in Thailand because as soon as I open my mouth and start talking Thai to a Thai guy, I get way more attention. And I found that that's been an advantage for me when it comes to like wanting to date a Thai guy or seeing that I'm like curious about a Thai guy.
Greg and I have kind of tried to hypothesize, like, why are Thai men seem to be less interested in Western women? And some of it might be like that they could just be intimidated by your English, because I think Thai men, their English is worse than Thai women. So you're saying that might be true. So when you speak Thai, it's easier for them to
absolutely
connect.
I think I found in my experience, because I mean, when I moved to Thailand, I couldn't speak any Thai, and so having been here for 10 years, I'm okay at Thai. I can hold a conversation. I can make a joke. I feel like that's a true test of any language. So I can be funny in Thai. So when I have like spoken to Thai men and able to flirt with them or joke around with them in Thai, I found that it's like, yeah, they show a lot more interest and they're a lot more curious about me and where my background and like my story. Versus before when I first moved here and like hearing from or Thai guys trying to talk to me, it didn't happen because they just couldn't speak any English and I couldn't speak any Thai. So how are we supposed to flirt? Body language. Yeah.
So do you identify as bisexual? Is this part of your thing?
Yeah. I mean, I had a boyfriend in university and I dated a girl in university. And since then I've gone on dates with both men and women. So
we've established this stereotype that this is a playground for Western men, but not so much Western women. I'm curious, as someone who's bisexual or lesbian, do you think it's easier to find a girl here than a guy?
Yeah, probably. Like, and somehow dating women is easier because, of course, you don't like, oh, I have cramps, like, or I don't feel like it. Like, you don't have to explain all of that or like, no thanks. But then the other thing that you have to compromise is like dating someone that has already dated someone that you know is like your best friend's something rather. Yeah. So
you were saying like the pool being smaller. I feel like that's a very big thing here as well, because like every time I've gone on a date and then afterwards I meet a new girl, or they're like, oh, I'm just dating this guy, or I met this guy, and I'm like, yep. Okay.
Been there.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean it's a guy that you know? Or
it's a guy that you know. Like, I think there was an article in the Bangkok Post as well about it, and the person is writing and it says, oh, these girls actually had like a WhatsApp group, and every time they went on a date, they would like send a screenshot and be like, anybody's? Is this anybody's? And I was like, wow, such a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? Like, not, wow, that's sad or anything like that. Just like, that's a great idea to like do that.
Sorry, it's Laura. There's a Facebook group for Thai women dating foreign men.
And it's for the women to...
It's for the women to vet the men to actually ask around, have you dated him? Have you dated him? Have you dated him? So what does
it's he... like Amazon reviews.
Yeah, like literally they're rating them, right? Like what is he... But I think it got a bit vulgar, like what does he make? And then it's like, who is he slept with? And, oh, he will do this. And yeah. It's pretty mercenary.
Oh, really?
It's pretty mercenary, but it's still, I mean, it's fun to read. It's fun to read.
Imagine this scenario. You meet a Western woman here. She's right off the plane. Now, I know your first advice to her is going to be turn around, like go back. Okay. But let's just say she's whatever, she's going to be here for 2 years. She's got some kind of contract, but she's single, and she's like, I want to find a boyfriend. So one by one, what advice would you give her? And you can't tell her to leave. Like she
was determined to stay.
She's going to be here 2 years. She's like, I really want to be in a relationship. What's her strategy? What should she do?
Okay, this is Carrie here. That's a good question. And I want to bring it back to when we were talking about earlier about strategies, about giving up, about all of that. And honestly, for myself personally, I don't want to be that bitter person. I don't want to be that bitter female expats leaving Thailand. I hate men. I hate relationships. I hate Thailand because personally, that's just not who I am. I try to keep an open mind. I try to be positive. And it sounds very cliched. It sounds very like, om kind of thing. But honestly, I would tell her, you know what? You're new here. Keep an open mind. Have fun. Don't become bitter. Don't become jaded. Thailand has a lot of things to offer. And what you get out of Thailand is what you put into it and what you want to take away from it. And because I lived in Korea for 2 years prior to coming to Thailand, and that is a different world from Thailand. And the reason why I left Korea was because I didn't want to be the typical expat men and women in Korea. I hate Korea. I hate Korean men. I hate Korean women. I hate Korean culture. And there were so many of that going on.
I've heard that a lot. I've heard
so many. And yet they're still there. They're there for 8 years, 10 years, and they're still saying, I hate Korea. I hate everything about Korea, but yet they're still there. And I feel the same about the expats here who are bitter about Thailand, about everything about Thailand. And, it's very cliched. If you don't like it, leave, that kind of thing. But there is truth to that. No one is making you stay.
I say this all the time. I agree 100%.
Yes. No one is making you stay. If you don't like it, you really can leave. Go wherever makes you happy, honestly. But for the newcomers, I say have fun, like I said, really what you get out of it is what you put into it. So, yeah.
What advice would you give?
To a Western woman that just walked off a plane coming to Bangkok, this is Kat. I feel like I would say, like, who cares? Just don't even bother trying to date. Or like, why are you so like focused on dating? And it's the same advice I've given myself when I get into a headspace of like, gotta find a boyfriend, and just like concentrate on your career, work on yourself. Like there's so much Thailand has to offer as a country and so many different experiences you can have here. Especially if you're on a contract in Thailand. So you might
kind of try to lower her expectations a little bit. Tell her this is not a great place to date. You might not want to make that a high priority. So you would maybe try to lower her expectations. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, I think it's the same thing I've told friends, even back in the States, when they're so obsessed with going on dates and finding a boyfriend and I get tired of hearing it. And I'm just like, shut up. Just work on yourself. Like nobody cares. Like just work on yourself and focus on your career. And like we'll have a conversation a year from now when you're in a serious relationship and you're like, oh God, I'm so tired of him. Like, didn't I tell you a year ago to just like work on yourself and I don't know, experience life? And it's the same thing I tell myself too, where I'm like, hey, like whining to myself. I'm like, girl, whatever, stop it. Yeah.
That's still young. You got a lot of time.
I still have hope.
This is Maggie. I would go with what you're saying. Is more like you're in a new country. Why you're caring about men? Like, go and have some fun, see what's out there, and also like if you're not happy with yourself, a dude's not gonna change that. Like if you came to Thailand looking for love, probably not gonna find it. If they ask for like advice on dating here, I would say try and keep an open mind, and also just remember that it's different from back home. It's not the same. I wouldn't want to give them my opinion because I believe everybody should create their own opinion. I would just say, go with whatever you feel is right. Do not compromise on your standards and your values, even if you feel like you are less attractive here or stuff like that. Don't care what other people think and just do you. Have fun. And if somebody is out there, you'll find them.
Okay, this is Laura. Kind of the same thing. If you're here for 2 years, I mean, why? What do you want a boyfriend for? I mean, honestly, what's the point? And just to go to movies with somebody? I mean, I really don't. I don't get the point. But also, like, there are people here on fixed contracts, and they're here for 2 years, 5 years, what have you. I wouldn't even. I mean, if you're dead set on dating somebody.
Well, you know, I mean, a lot of people are like that. It's not just women. I mean, sometimes
men come here for that.
People want to be in a relationship.
Yeah. And I used to be that way, and I'm so happy I'm not that way anymore.
So I guess my question is more like, if knowing what you guys know now, is there any way to find the good guys? There's some of us out there.
Don't go to the tourist spots. Don't go to the bars. Honestly, just go somewhere else. It's kind of like the same advice you'd give back home, I think. Go to the library, go to the bookstore, go to something.
Same advice
It's
you give
pretty
to
much
guys here, like,
yeah.
oh, I can't believe my girlfriend cheated on me again. Where'd you meet her? Well, Nana Plaza.
It's like, well,
I mean,
you know.
Come on.
But I mean, what I would recommend, especially for a woman coming here for the very first time, is find your tribe or find your support group first.
Find other women.
Yes. You need that's much more important. It's very difficult, especially expat women, because where'd you go? Where'd you go? They either leave or it's like a mummy clique thing, and I've been in all of them because I've been in the and I got rejected from the Japanese women, and of course I did. And then it was the mummy clique at school, but then everybody moves away. So if you're here for a long term, luckily I have amazing Thai friends as well. I have some Thai friends that are just like literally my rocks. These are my family, right? So if you don't find your tribe and you don't find your support group, it's going to be so much more difficult to just navigate anything, especially a relationship, because you have nobody to check you and go, what are you doing?
I was always under the impression that expat women stuck together and kind of took care of each other. But you're saying maybe not so much?
It's too transient. This is the same thing I had in Japan too, but we actually have a legal association. Like, we made a whole association of foreign wives of Japanese. So it's a members due paying thing, and they all get together and have events and a yearly convention. Yeah.
You mean in Japan?
In Japan, yeah. So, but coming over here, it's even more transient. Like, I find there's a lot more women here than there were, like foreign women here than there were in Japan. But it's a much more of a transient place. So they'll come, they'll be like, I don't like it, and leave. So to try to make it's kind of like friendships are even different. They're fast, they're very intimate, and then they're gone.
Are there any particular groups you guys would recommend to a new woman to join? I mean, I just don't know.
I would say, like, this is advice that I always got, is go to meetups and things like that. Because, again, it's harder to make girlfriends here than to make guy friends. Like, guys I'm good with. I have my 3 brothers. I'm pretty easy. I can talk to men and stuff like that. But yeah, like, girls, it's different. So things like meetup groups where you have the same interests already. And again, also, I wouldn't go there to meet guys per se. I would, if that happens, great. But rather go to that and go to things that interest you. So you could, the same as back home, like, yeah.
I was going to suggest that, like, volunteering is a great way. So Carrie and I actually met before, because I work a lot with, like, rescue animals, and we met rescuing animals before. So totally forgot, didn't realize it. But I would suggest that. I mean, that's a great way to, and like, as you said, similar to going to meetups, you meet other people who have the same interests. So I think, and that's giving back to community, and you feel good about it, and yeah, blah, blah, blah.
This is Carrie here. There's also Farang Girls in Bangkok, the Facebook group.
Oh, it's called Farang Girls in Bangkok?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, cool.
Yes, where we can ask each other about, like, even the most, intimate questions, like, hey, I want to get a Brazilian wax. Where do I go? Which is really helpful. Yeah. Yes.
It's always helpful to me when I know where to get a Brazilian wax.
Very, very
good
helpful.
Advice. It's very hard to find a good one.
I know a good back guy if anyone.
That is okay. We're cutting that out. That's getting cut out.
Totally different problem.
One more piece of advice: stay away from Thai visa.
Yeah, those forums are pretty harsh.
Sometimes you find the expat guys, and sometimes I'm even friends with these guys who are some very bitter. That we talked about the bitter women who
bitter
end up
guys,
leave,
for
but
sure.
there's so many bitter
guys.
men who have come here because they've, like me, they've divorced and they kind of put the blame for everything that went wrong on their Western ex.
For sure. No, there are like a lot of white guys here who hate on white women, and it's creepy.
I've never
really weird.
gotten such dirty looks, dirty comments, and just full on nasty things thrown at me. And I'm like, I don't know you at all. What is your issue? And anything to do with, if you say the F word, feminism, they'll like,
oh, for sure.
How dare you? And you're trying to affect their culture and leave the Asians alone. It's like, dude, whoa. You just went off somewhere where I don't even know.
The whole reason this little thing today came together was because I posted a question on an expat Facebook group.
Never go on those lines.
And actually, the guy that moderates that, one of the moderators, Blake, who's a very nice guy. Yeah, he was a guest on a previous show, and he just sort of gave us some insights about what it's like being a moderator in one of these groups that can often just go way off the rails and spin out of control. Right, because what the story is, I posted a comment on this expat group, and I was like, hey, I'm looking to talk to some women who would give us some insight into this. Nothing salacious, nothing creepy. And of course, this one frat bro knob, jumped in. And he said some, just the most ridiculous, stereotypical, not even...
It's not relevant.
Not even
It's like, oh, you're fat as the queen of sea cows, and all of Western women are disgusting, fat, sweaty, hairy knobs or something. And I went, you got some issues, dude.
I thought it was really funny that a few comments later he also threw in how buff he was, which I thought.
Oh yes.
It was
but
just
I am an Adonis.
Yeah, and I have in my years I have been really shocked and taken aback. Like I don't offend easily, but. Some guys, you mention Farang women or white women or expat women, and they come out with the most like
vile, disgusting.
Dude, chill out.
And this is stuff again. They would not say this at home.
No.
Well, I think those guys, because Greg and I talked about this before. There are bitter white guys who feel maltreated back home. So these are guys who are unsuccessful at home.
The charisma men.
Right. Well, they come here and they have a sweet Thai girlfriend, and so they blame everything on you guys. It's like the white women back home who rejected me, but look, this cute Thai girl, she digs me.
So everyone else is wrong.
Yeah. So I'm obviously a great guy.
But especially for like somebody who just arrives here, don't take that stuff seriously, and you really actually have to have quite a solid idea of who you are and be very secure in that, because you will be knocked down and knocked sideways. You really knocked sideways, breathless by what people will say to your face that you do not expect.
This would be a whole nother show, but I when I meet Farang guys who are just off the plane, and they're super excited for this whole adventure they're going to go on. I always tell them, like, be careful what you wish for. And the other thing I want to say is this a little bit different. I got to be honest, I've only seen this a couple times, but I've had a couple American friends who they don't like Thai women from the beginning. I've only seen this a couple times, to be honest. But they're like, they have no curves. Like, what's up? Why are you guys so? Why are you? I've seen this a couple times. They're just like, why? Where? Yeah, no, literally. For this one buddy of mine, I mean, it was just so funny because we went, it was a typical thing. He was like new in town. We went to Nana, whatever, because they're so skinny. He was just totally not into it from day one. He's just like, no, he was not. No, he just never dated a Thai woman. He was like, I don't get it. He's like, why are you guys so into Thai women? He's like, they're skinny. It's like there's no curves. There's nothing there.
Well, as we're wrapping up now, I just want to get into the one last question. As we're talking about stereotypes here, we talked about stereotype of Farang men and things like that. A blog I read on this topic said, a woman wrote a blog about expat dating in Thailand, and she said, in my opinion, many Western men have much to learn from Thais. Thai men have that gentleness about them that they seem mysterious at the same time. It makes such a difference when a guy is a gentleman, polite, and doesn't send you a dick pic straight after a first date. So what are some of the stereotypes of Thai men that expat women have.
Yeah, my experience isn't that great because I've only been on 2 dates with 2 different Thai guys. And like I said earlier, it was different because I've never had a Thai person come up to me. The first time it happened was very much like this guy just randomly coming up to me and like asking me for my number and stuff like that. And if I look back at it, because he was speaking with like a British accent, I was like, okay, you were obviously like educated abroad, right? And later I found out comes from a well-off family and stuff like that. But just the expectation of what I have to be and not have any pushback about anything like the gig or not have anything. Another thing off topic that I've noticed is like we were talking about gigs and stuff like that. As a foreigner dating Thai guys, I've realized that because I asked this guy the one time, I was like, would you take like me home to meet your parents as a foreign girl? And he straight out said, why? I'm not getting anything financially out of this relationship. And this is his words, not mine. Thai women date foreign men for their money.
I have to chime in. My wife is definitely not with me for my money.
Oh no, like I know that not all Thai women do that because I mean my brother lives here and his wife is a sweetheart and she's definitely not with him because of his money. Like definitely not the poor thing.
I once made a joke about if my wife and I got divorced. I said, "Oh, we'll get divorced and you'll get half of everything." And she said, "What am I going to get? Your comic books?" So she gets it. Any other stereotypes from?
I think that, with Asian men in general, they're very feminine, especially Thai men, the way they speak, the way their mannerisms.
Now, do you like that or not like that?
I don't. I personally don't. I mean, I like Asian guys in general, but I find that the Thai men are very effeminate and they do expect to be taken care of in a way. Yeah. It's in their culture. I mean, they live at home with mommy and daddy until they're like, 35, 36, or even older. Because it's in the Thai culture to be very family oriented, that you live together with grandma, grandpa, uncle, cousins. And that's very normal for them. Yeah, they're totally not like a Western independent type of people.
I think from my perspective and like what I've heard advice from my own family and friends here and back in the States is just warning me about dating Thai men because they're like go out drinking all the time, they're gonna cheat on you, like gambling your money away. So that's a stereotype I've heard from other people warning me about dating Thai men. But for myself, I think similar to what Carrie said, like a little bit feminine and not very taking charge of things. And I think a thing in Western culture and like people that I like to date is like holding themselves accountable for their actions. And I think it's something that doesn't always really happen with Thai men here, is that not holding themselves accountable for their actions. It's not even in the vocabulary. Like it doesn't happen. So that's a generalization.
Yes, Laura. I think I've been warned by Thai women. Why, we don't want to date Thai men. Why would you? I'm like, ooh, wow, ouch, ouch. And again, I can't say, I mean, stereotypes are stereotypes. Obviously, it's not all Thai men. I mean, I don't want to be the one person bashing Thai men at all. But yeah, I think, again, I was married to another Asian, dated a different country, different Asian countries man. And it's very, they're very taken care of.
Well, it's strange though, but it's also like it's supposed to be a paternalistic society where like.
That's the thing. Men are in charge outside, but when it comes to the house and how the children are raised, the women are in charge. The mothers do this. But then I would blame the moms because the moms make them this way.
A guy I used to work with said this, it was really deep. He said the problem with Thai men is that they're all raised by Thai women.
Yes. And so it's kind of perpetuating the whole problem. They're too pampered. They're overmothered. And then I think we're going to Freudian stuff here. They're not looking for a wife; they're looking for another mom.
Well, anyway, I want to thank you guys again for coming. I know this isn't easy because this is semi-public. It's going to go out to the public. I know it's not easy, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming down. It was really interesting.
This is like a good act because some women out there will hear this and they will learn. And some Western women might hear this and decide not to come to Thailand. So, wow, that really was a lot of different stuff. Obviously I was there when we interviewed them, but I kind of forgot how many different topics we covered. It's almost like we could have part 3 and part 4.
I think so. I think, yeah. We could definitely sit down with these 4 women or another 4 women and get all new stories. I'm sure of it. And, it's interesting talking with a couple of friends of mine about telling them about this show the other day. My two of my Thai female friends who I've known for years and years. And they might come on as future guests as well to talk about what it's like dating from a Thai woman's perspective, which would also be very interesting.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I love this idea of getting different angles. I mean, you and I try our best to be open-minded. We try our best to see things from other people's perspectives, but sometimes it's just easier to actually get someone else's perspective.
Yeah, that's right. And I hate when people say like, "Oh, you don't understand Thailand." I'm like, "Of course I can understand Thailand," but there are just some things that you can't understand. Like, I don't know what it's like being a Farang woman in Bangkok. As hard as I try, I just will never be able to understand it. So it's awesome having those guests on, and a huge thanks to Maggie, Carrie, Laura, and Kat who came on and gave us their time. So they gave us some really cool stories and some great insight into a complex issue.
Yeah, we owe them for sure. But these 2 episodes have really given me a lot of ideas. Like I think we should. I think just because it goes against the cliche, I think we should try to find some Farang guys who are not into the dating scene in Thailand for whatever reason. There's got to be some. It can't be heaven for all Farang guys here.
I have definitely known guys in the past that have not liked Thai women. And but especially my one friend who doesn't live here anymore, but they're out there. We just got to find them. Hey, listeners, if you're one of them, let us know. Maybe we could talk about it.
If you're an expat guy, particularly a Western guy, and you don't like the dating scene in Thailand, we'd love to hear from you. I think that's an interesting topic.
I gotta say, man, I'm glad I'm married. I don't know if I could handle the dating scene these days. It's so much simpler. I sound like an old man, but it was so much simpler when there was no Tinder or Facebook or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I think we had. That's right. No, we really didn't. There really was not Facebook in the early days when we were here. No. And I'm sure there was some type of computer dating because that's been around forever, but we didn't really have hardcore apps like Tinder.
No, I did meet a few dates on MySpace back in the day, but that wasn't made for dating. It just happened to be that's where we connected. So.
Right.
All right, let's get into some love, loathe, or live with, where one of us surprises the other with a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we then discuss and decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept it as just a part of life in Bangkok. So this week, Ed, it's over to you.
Okay, so here's what I've got this week for you, Greg. So I've got a specific example that I'm sure that specific example has never happened to you. But it fits into a category of things that I just think of as inexplicable interactions. And okay, maybe you don't know what I'm talking about, so we'll find out. Okay, but I'll just tell you just a quick story of what happened to me today, and it just reminded me how this happens to me periodically since I've been in Thailand. So, I was off work today. I hung out at home in the morning, but I had to go into my office in the afternoon. I walked out of my house, walked like 10 minutes down the road, and of course it started to rain. So I dodged under an awning. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting there on like a curb under an awning, and this Thai guy walks by, and he looks maybe like he's like a laborer or a working guy or something like that. And he walks by, and he's walking in the rain, and he stops and like smiles at me, and he points up at the sky, right? And then he points at the awning that I'm sitting under, and he gives me like a big grin and a big thumbs up.
Classic.
And I don't know. I'm like, he could have easily come under the awning, but he didn't. He was just out in the rain. And I don't really know what the interaction meant. Like he seemed to be like commending me on my genius for getting under the awning.
Yeah.
You know, he like pointed up at the sky. He pointed at the awning and gave me like a big grin and a thumbs up. Like,
Congratulations
yeah.
for using your troglodyte brain for figuring out how to shelter from storms.
And, you know, and it reminded me that I have these somewhat inexplicable interactions. And, I think it's because certain Thai people are attracted to foreigners in a way that they want to interact with us, but maybe their English isn't very good, and they're just being friendly. Like, so this guy was just being friendly, had a huge smile on his face, and I find myself just smiling back, even though I have no idea what transpired. So that's what I mean. So
right.
So that's what I mean. Like, I don't know if you have this. Sometimes I have them with taxi drivers where I just pretend I understand what they mean. So I just call it the inexplicable interaction, where I just don't know where someone's coming from.
Right. Like, or, if you're eating street food or something and someone walks by and points at you and gives you the thumbs up is a classic, right? Like and they go, welly good.
Yes.
Like, oh, the Farang can eat Thai food.
Yeah, what are they talking about? That's even a little bit more specific. You're right. That they like to say, like, good, very good, when you're doing something, and I never know exactly what they're complimenting me on. Eating Thai food, or is it?
Well, the other day I bought a couple of chicken skewers at the mall, and I ordered, speaking all in Thai, and the woman who was selling them was just flabbergasted that I was speaking Thai, and she wanted to get into this long conversation. She was like, "Oh, really good, like, you put that Thai kipi now," and like all this stuff, and I'm like, so the answer to your question is I love these things because they're so random, and they're weird, and they're goofy, and they're funny, and sometimes they're annoying, but I think that they ground you here. They keep you in touch with, like, for lack of a better term, the regular people, and they can sometimes lead to some interesting conversations, although most of the time I pretend I don't speak very good Thai,
right?
So I don't have to get into it with anyone. Just let me listen to my podcasts. But I love them. I think they're quirky and unique and cool.
Yeah, I guess I'm going to go with that. I guess I'm going to also go with love, although sometimes I just do find them genuinely confusing. So it's not like I don't really find them annoying. So I'm probably going to, I guess I'm going to go with love as well. But sometimes I do just find them, like, mysterious. Yeah, like another example of just a somewhat weird interaction is when occasionally, like, Thai people, like, salute me for no apparent reason. Like, I'm not sure if they used to be in the Thai army or they're, it's like they're expecting me to Y them, and so maybe they're trying to do some Western thing back, and they know Westerners don't Y. So have you ever had, like, random salutes?
Yeah, sometimes from security guards and stuff, and sometimes they're, like, strangely overly enthusiastic, and you're like, chill out, buddy. And that leads into a whole different thing that we can talk about another time. But, like, Thailand has this sort of cultural hierarchy that people are expected to fit into, but back in Western countries, ostensibly anyway, everyone is equal. Everyone's on the same playing field. So to salute someone just randomly in civilian life would be very weird.
Yeah.
So you appreciate the gesture, even if you don't really get it. Like, if someone wishes me Happy Hanukkah, I'm not Jewish, but I'm going to say, "Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you."
Agreed.
So
I guess
I love it.
I guess we love these quirky interactions.
Yeah, they're unexpected and weird, and just sort of remind you that you are living a pretty adventurous life.
So before we wrap up, I'd like to give a special thanks to all of our lovely patrons. As you know, we don't run ads or have sponsors, so we really, really do appreciate the support we get from our patrons. If you want to learn more, just head to bangkokpodcast.com/support. And if you want to get in touch with us, it's easy. Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We are very polite, and if you write, we will answer.
Yeah, you can also find each episode on YouTube, and you can also follow us online, where we post each episode and carry on conversations with you. You can also reach out to me directly on Twitter, where I am BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you back here next week.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a 1-year teaching contract 18 years ago, fell in love with how unregulated Thailand was and how it let me take all kinds of risks without trying to... And I am Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a 1-year teaching contract 18 years ago, fell in love with how unregulated Thailand is and how it let me take all kinds of crazy risks with my life that I couldn't take in the States because that's not going to work either. God damn it.